Well, hello lovely humans, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hey, my name's Jamie. Welcome. Bienvenidos. I'm a wedding planner, and I like to do wedding planning tip videos. And while you're here, I'd love if you jumped on down there and hit that subscribe button to follow along with our wedding planning journey. And while we're riding the subscribe train, jump on over to my personal channel where we do all lifestyle content. I've got DIYs, I've got thrifting, I've got vlogs, I've got lots of fun stuff to keep you very entertained. So come join me over there. Because here is where the wedding stuff lives, but the other one, a whole lot of fun. And of course, you can follow our wedding Instagram here and my personal Instagram here. In this week's video, we're going to be talking about something that has become massively popular in the last, handful of months. And that is micro weddings. What are they? What are you supposed to do with them? How do they work? What's the difference between that and an elopement? All the stuff and all the things. And is a micro wedding right for me? So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. So I think it's important first to, state what is a micro wedding. Like, what does that even mean? A micro wedding is a small wedding. I'm pretty sure you guys were able to crack that code based on the words that were used to name it, yes. But oftentimes it can be kind of confused with an elopement or a mini-moni, and now I might be busting out words that some of you are like, those aren't real. What is a mini-moni? A micro wedding is the same exact thing as a big traditional wedding, just on a smaller scale. So you do all of the same traditional things that you would at a big wedding. You have your ceremony followed by your cocktail hour and then your reception. You just do it with less people, which obviously right now in the 2020 time and space is a lot more alluring and or is the only feasible option for people. But now that this trend has become so much more popular, my hope is that moving forward, people will still see this as a very viable option. But whether or not this whole micro wedding movement was forced onto us, my guess is it's gonna be here to stay. And there's a lot of reasons why that's a good thing. Now, an elopement is, it's less structured. Now, historically, an elopement is like you run away in secret and get married and nobody knows. And now it's kind of shifted into this. You go with an officiant and maybe a witness or two and a photographer onto a mountaintop or something really cool and epic. That's kind of what an elopement is. So the elopement is an unstructured version with very, very few guests. A micro wedding is the same thing as a traditional wedding, just with 50 guests or less. Now, just because there is a smaller guest count does not mean that it has to be any less special or any less traditional. Honestly, most micro weddings these days are a cross between an elopement and a traditional event, because with a smaller group of people, you have so many more options that you can do. For example, if you have 20 guests, it's pretty easy to have a flash mob style ceremony on the steps of the Met. Like, I think that's a thing. The Met has steps, right? But you don't necessarily have to go formally reserve a venue for your ceremony if it's just 20 people, 25 people. In fact, I've always had this, I've always wanted to be a part of a flash mob ceremony. I don't know what it is, but it just sounds like so much fun to me, where you just tell guests to arrive at a certain spot. There are no chairs. The officiant walks out, you guys walk out, get married, and then everyone goes to the cocktail hour and to have food and to hang out. I don't know what it is about that concept, but that's really exciting to me. And I hope one day that I get to be a part of that. And I'm going to call it a flash mob ceremony because that's what it's going to be like. Just everyone shows up, does the dang thing, and then takes off. Along with the ability to choose a more unique location and or not even pay for a ceremony location, having fewer guests frees you up in so many ways. First of all, there's less work to do. If you are DIYing anything from favors to centerpieces, you will be physically making a heck of a lot less than you would if you had 100 guests or 200 guests. With fewer guests, it also kind of limits your options. Most likely, you're not going to be going to a reception hall that holds about 300 people, because that'll feel a little cavernous if you only have 30. So it's really going to help you kind of trim away at some of those big options and help you to focus on the places that will actually hold your guest count comfortably. Because then, just like with the ceremony, doing that flash mob style, where you just show up and you do the dang thing, for your cocktail hour and your reception, you can have it at your favorite restaurant, because they're all going to fit in there. Or you can feasibly do it in your own backyard. That's actually something we run into with backyard weddings, is like, can you physically even fit the amount of people that you want to invite? But with a micro wedding, unless you have the backyard the size of a postage stamp, you're probably going to be okay. And a huge reason that a lot of people go for a micro wedding is it's less expensive. Because if you haven't seen the video that I did about your number one budget killer, I'm gonna totally spoil that one for you. It's your guest count. Like, your guest count directly affects so many items in your wedding. I'm gonna go ahead and link that video up here for you. But basically, food, drinks, rentals, the amount of centerpieces that you're gonna need, the amount of ice that you need to order, the amount of servers that will need to be on staff. There are so many different things that will be directly affected by the number of people that you invite. Your photographer won't be, your officiant won't be, your DJ probably not, and your planner, no, but everyone else, like, they will need your guest count, and how much they charge you is determined by how many people you're inviting. So potentially, when you use less people, notice I say potentially, when you invite less people, your budget stands the chance of being cheaper. Now, that isn't always the case. Sometimes with micro weddings, people end up spending the same exact amount that they would for a large wedding, but just making a more lavish experience for their guests. If the couple's doing a destination style wedding, that may mean that they can actually purchase and afford welcome bags for their guests, or maybe even a handful of the rooms for them as well. So it can create a really fun experience for all involved. So right about now, I know micro weddings are looking pretty sweet. There's less work to do. There's less people that you feel like you need to please because your guest count's so much lower. It's potentially cheaper as long as you don't go hog wild, you know? But the biggest con, the biggest downside that I run into when I'm talking to clients about potentially doing a micro wedding is, but what about the people that we want there? Well, it depends on where we're at and where you're at. If you're watching this outside of 2020, please tell me that things are good now. But right now, a lot of us don't really have the luxury of making that choice. So a lot of couples are just choosing to forge ahead with a micro wedding to maintain their specific date and that specific anniversary, with a sequel wedding to happen later. But if you have the freedom to choose between the two, sometimes the biggest hurdle for couples to get over is, I can't imagine not having all of these people present for our wedding day. And that's kind of where it just comes down to personal preference and what you guys really, really want to get out of this. Do you want a less expensive wedding? Do you want less people to please? Do you want a big giant party with all of your family and all of your friends? I will tell you, I was not a micro wedding gal, and if I did it all over again, I would not be a micro wedding gal. I like a lot of people around. I like a big party. So I do know that a micro wedding's not for everyone. But I know there's some introverted friends out there watching this going like, yes, please. I don't want a lot of people. That's not my jam. So when it comes to deciding between the two, it's up to you. Like, there's no wrong way to do this. And I think that's basically the whole point of this channel, is just letting you guys know, like, there's no wrong way to do this. I mean, there might be a few wrong ways, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's your wedding day, so you do you. So you've made it this far in the video. You might be kind of intrigued by the idea of micro weddings. So how do you plan one? Well, it's gonna be basically identical to everything else we've talked about on this channel, just on a much smaller scale. You're gonna wanna start with the venue. Remember that this can be a unique location. You are not pigeonholed into getting a wedding specific venue. You can do your favorite restaurant, you can do your favorite bar, you can do your favorite coffee shop. Like, that would be, I would die to do a micro wedding in a vibey little coffee shop. Ugh, could you imagine? You could do a park, you could do a field. The options are gosh darn near unlimited. You can always feel free to bring on a wedding planner to help you. Obviously, like, this is what I do, so I see the value in what we do, even if it is a micro wedding. But with 45 people, there's a lot less stuff to direct, so you could probably get away without hiring one a lot more easily. Although I'd still recommend a day of coordinator if you can swing that. Then figure out your food and beverage. Again, because there's less people, you can be a lot more creative, or you can get a little bit more bougie with it and still spend a heck ton less than you would with triple the amount of guests. Then you're gonna need to figure out the rest of your vendors, like desserts, florals, decor and or rentals, and music/DJ. When working with large scale events, there are a couple of vendors that would have something called a shop minimum, such as a florist would have a shop minimum of $3,000. So no matter what you do, no matter what you book from them, it's going to be starting at $3,000. So basically, they don't do any work that's underneath that mark. You're gonna wanna find a vendor that does not have a shop minimum like that. And that would probably apply to your florals, that would apply to your desserts, that would apply to your catering. I mean, if there's like a $15,000 catering minimum that you have to hit, that's probably not a good idea, because there's only so much bougie food that 25 people can eat, you know? So read the contracts carefully and make sure you are avoiding any minimums at all. Instead, get a little bit creative. Talk to a local bakery down the street and have someone pick up cupcakes instead, because you do not need a cake for 20 people. Like, that feels a little bit excessive. So get creative with it. Also, it's a lot easier to pick up 3 centerpieces than it is to pick up 15 centerpieces. So maybe you can find a florist that will allow you to pick up your own or have someone pick them up for you. So you can still get professionals in all these categories, but your experience is just just going to look slightly different. And lastly, find a way to make it personal. It's kind of hard to like have it not be personal when it is such a small group, but there's a way to be really intentional about it. I love it when people write personal vows, especially in a smaller structure like that. It allows people into the intimacy of the moment. So I think taking some time and jotting down your own vows really does make it a more personalized and intimate experience both for you and your guests. When it comes to favors, this is actually probably going to be the only time on this channel that you hear me to be a huge fan of favors and think they're actually a really good idea, and that's with micro weddings. Because one, people are a heck of a lot more likely to take them, and two, you have the opportunity to personalize them. So you can write a handwritten note, you can do something super specific to that one person because it's a much smaller scale, so you can spend more time on it. And then the last little thing that you can really do to personalize a micro wedding is spend time with your guests. If you are doing something smaller on this scale, that means that you could probably spend the whole weekend with these people. Doesn't even have to be a destination event. You can do rehearsal dinner with 20 people. You can do your actual wedding day with 20 people. And you can do brunch afterwards with 20 people and still come under the budget of a 200-person wedding. That, and you can actually see everybody on your wedding day. You can shake their hands, you can hug them, you can spend time with them. You will not be missing out on time with anyone at your event when it's on a much smaller scale. Micro weddings are such a wonderful way to express your love story. They really and truly are. They are not for everybody. Again, I probably wouldn't do one myself because I like a big party. But for those of you who are interested, hopefully this video helped you out to get you planning on the right track. Don't be afraid to get a little creative. Don't be afraid to have a flash mob ceremony. And don't be afraid to personalize the heck out of your event because it's going to be such a fun one for people to enjoy. So that's all we have for this week, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. Let me know what you're doing in the comments below. Are you doing a micro wedding? Are you doing an elopement? Are you doing traditional wedding? There is no wrong answer here. Even if you're still kind of undecided, just let me know down below. I love chatting with you guys. Go ahead and jump on down there and subscribe if you haven't already. If I didn't win you over already, just click the button, ring the bell, hang out some more. It's fine. It's gonna be great. And until next week, bye guys.